New fallout from the Veteran Affairs scandal. VA Secretary Eric Shinseki testifying before a Senate committee this past week about allegations of poor treatment at his department's medical centers. So what needs to be done to make sure our nation's veterans get the care that they need? Joining us right now is Republican Senator Johnny Isakson, a member of the Veterans Affairs Committee. Senator, thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
How would you characterize what's happening at the VA right now?
Deplorable. And the resignation of Dr. Petzel is a sham. He had already announced his retirement last September, and the president had already sent up a replacement name to the committee for confirmation purposes. So that action had nothing to do with the terrible, deplorable actions that had taken place at the VA.
So what are you going to do? I mean, why would anyone join the military? Why would anyone fight for our country knowing the horrible treatment that they get once they've already given their lives to this?
We need decisive action from the Secretary and the VA. I understand there's an Inspector General's investigation going on, but while that's going on, decisive action ought to be taken. I think the Secretary ought to appoint a Director of Quality Assurance Services for the VA first. Second, I think he ought to recruit the Veterans Service organizations to report to him periodically on the quality of care their individual veterans are getting. And I think any raise or any incentive pay that goes to any Veterans Administration employee ought to be predicated on zero tolerance for error and for cooking the books. A lot of this stuff on appointment changing and things like that took place to enable them to get bonuses. They ought to be incentivized for quality service, not for their own income.
Well, Secretary Shinseki has been running this since 2009. It's all happened under his watch. Should he still keep his job while our veterans are dying, while they're waiting to be cared for, while our veterans are watching whistleblowers come out with the fact that things are trying to be pushed under the rug? Why not push for Shinseki's resignation?
Well, first of all, the facts need to determine whether that happens or not, and including whether or not there's any criminal action on part of the VA. Some of the accusations against VA employees are actually criminal in nature, lying to the federal government, for example. We need to find out what happened in every single case, and everybody should be held accountable from the top to the bottom of the Veterans Administration. And Secretary Shinseki needs to understand the best insurance policy for him is swift and decisive action now. We know a lot of facts. We knew them in the Atlanta VA. We knew them in Fort Collins. We knew them in Raleigh. We knew them in Phoenix. It's time to take decisive action right now for our veterans.
A former doctor at the facility in Arizona says that the delays are contributing to the deaths of 40 patients. You say we have to find out and get to the bottom of this, but how are you going to do it? What's your plan?
The plan, first of all, is what I recommended: have a quality assurance director and a team of mystery shoppers of our VA hospitals. So we have veterans who are going in for the express purpose of reporting back to us at the committee if there are errors or if there's cooking on the books or if there's maneuvers and such on scheduling and things of that nature. We need an open and transparent Veterans Administration. We need the facts to determine what happens, and we need to make sure nobody is incentivized in their compensation by virtue of them cooking the books to the disservice of our veterans.
Is this more of an issue with the people underneath Mr. Shinseki? I mean, management sort of on the operating wheel there? Because we're finding out every day more information. We're waiting on this IG report. But in terms of actual leadership, there hasn't really been much material change.
You know, you would think an organization that's made up of veterans who served in the active duty military would understand how to follow orders, but there has been definitely a letdown by the senior management team to the Secretary and the people under him. We don't have an accountability system or a chain of command within the Veterans Administration, Veterans Medical Services, and it's showing. That's why our veterans are not getting the services they should.
All right, Senator, stay with us. We want to go from the VA to the IRS. New emails coming to light this past week connecting the tax agency scandal directly to Washington. We'll get Senator Isakson to weigh in on that as we look ahead on Sunday Morning Futures.